Hello YouTubers, I'm Parviz and this is our sixth video in Python web development with Flask. Now in the previous video we have learned about context variable in Python programming language and how you can send data from your Python files to your Jinja templates. Now in this video I'm going to show you how you can connect your Flask application to the MySQL database. Before this, you need to install Flask-MySQLdb. If you're using MySQL, we need to install pip install Flask-MySQLdb. You can install Flask-MySQLdb through pip. Now, I have already installed this and I don't want to install it again. Okay, now I don't want to bring change for my in these files. I'm going to start a new Python file, create, and I call it MySQL connection, like this. And also let me create a template, a new template. So I call it home.html, like this. Now after this I want to import. So first you need to import from Flask, import Flask. Let me create my simple Flask application app and Flask app Flask and I'm going to just create one route at app.route, and this is index route. Let me call it home. Also I need to import a render template, so return render template, and this is home.html, and let me just underscore name and run my app.run and make the debugging to true. So debug to true. Okay, now this is also, let me just in my home.html let me add an HTML. So hit, and let me give a title, so home, and in the body I want to give h1 welcome to home page. Okay, now just let me run this. Okay, now you can see welcome to homepage. Before this, I'm using wamp server. Let me create a database in here. So I want to create a database and I'm going to give it a Flask app. So now my Flask app is created, and I want to give three. So I want to give the table name, so this is users, and this should be, there should be three number of columns. Okay, now so first one is ID, and we have a name, and also I'm going to give email. Okay, this is integer, this is varchar and varchar. Let me give the length, so for example 100, 255 and 255, and also make the ID auto increment. So where is it? Okay, now I'm going to make it auto increment. Okay, after this, let me save this. The user table is created. Now I want to add some data in here, so insert. So ID is auto increment, and for the name I want to give my name and email. For example, give an email and click on go. I want to insert another name, so insert for example John, and email at gmail.com. Let me add another one, so the last one, let me give it Bob and bob at gmail.com. Okay, now we have our tables, and let me check the structure. Browse, and so you can see I have 3 data in here. After this, now in here, now in our Flask application, I want to import, so from Flask MySQLdb import MySQL. Okay, now after this, in here we need some configuration for our database, so app.config. So the first one is MySQL host, so MySQL host. Now for the host, this is local host. Another one is app.config MySQL user, so MySQL _ user, and my username is root. Okay, now let me just copy this in here. So I have a password, MySQL password. For the password, I don't have any password, so like this. And let me copy once more. I have DB, so it's my DB name is Flask app. Okay, and after this, at the end, you need to create a MySQL object, so MySQL and MySQL, and in here you need to add your app. Okay, now in the home, we are going to create our connection, our MySQL connection. So the first thing, let me create a cursor, so MySQL dot connection dot cursor. After this, I'm going to execute my query, so cur dot execute, and in here select all from users, so my table name is users. And after this, let me fetch the data from the user table, so let me call fetch data, and in here I'm going to cur dot fetch all, so fetch all. Okay, Now after this, let me close this. So cur.close. Now in here, in this section, let me create my context. So data and fetch data. Okay. Now in our home.html, in here, I am going to print the data. So data. Now the first thing, let me refresh, close this connection, close tab, and let me open my MySQL, my web server. So okay, now let me run this. So I am waiting for this. Now let me open this. Okay, now you can see that this is the retrieved data from our MySQL database. So if you check our Flask app, in the Flask app, so structure, let me check the structure, users. So now you can see that these are the data that we have in here, and also these are the retrieved data, our ID, our name, and our email address. So thank you guys. In the next video, I will show you that how you can use for loop for retrieving these data. So please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and also share it.